Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So a while ago some of you requested a tutorial on me installing regular microlocs without extensions. So here is that video. I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible through each step of this process. So here you're seeing my client came with her hair already washed and conditioned and in plaits. 2 days before my client's appointment, I send them an email and let them know that that's how I want them to prep their hair, so their hair is stretched and ready for me to dig right in. So let's talk about the grid. Of course, the grid looks beautiful in pictures and video. It's like the best thing. It's amazing. But a grid is really just to ensure that you are getting the same size locks in the same areas of the client's head. Now this is what I use my grid for. Once this grid is done this one time and they are installed, you will never see this grid again. There will be no reason to part your hair out and put the grid back in at all. Okay, so I literally use the grid to number one because I like how it makes me feel as I finish each square, and I'm like, okay, I got 2 more squares, I got 3 more squares. It makes the countdown a lot better. And also it helps me ensure that I'm getting the right sizes in the right areas, and then I'm able to mirror the locks on each side of the head. So don't get too hung up on your grids, too hung up on the grids long term, because honestly, once you have it once and your locks are in, that's the last time you're going to see it. So let's talk about when you first start the first section. Those first 2 to 3 rows in the back of the neck can be really tricky because obviously that's where your hair is really fine. Some clients have full hair in the bottom row of their head. A lot of clients don't. Some clients have a hairline that they have hair in one section, then it kind of goes up and there's no hair and it comes back down. So you have to be mindful of how you install these. I always like to make this first and second row a tad bit bigger than I'm going to make the other locks on the head, because I want them to be strong enough to hold on. Because just think about, all the friction that happens back there when you put a scarf on, when you lay down, when you're brushing your hair up, brushing your hair down. The back of your neck is going to get the biggest beating. So I make those a little stronger and not so tiny, and I make sure that I get as many as I can. Now, if there's hair back there that's super, super short, because of course some people have baby hair back there, I don't plait the hair up or do anything to it. I'll leave it where it is and let it do its thing. What else? Also, on those 2 or 3 back rows, I may plait the roots a little bit instead of just twisting, because the twist is going to come right out. So I'll plait the root a little bit, then twist it, and then interlock it. So let's talk sizing. So I tell my clients during their consultations that I size your microlocs according to your own hair density and hair texture. I think you can't give everybody the same size locks, microlocs or locks, honestly, because everyone has different hair textures and different hair densities. So normally, once I do a few on the first row, if the client wants to, I'll let them see it. But a lot of my clients trust me and trust the sizing, so I don't really have too many that request that. But I would say keep that in mind when you're sizing them. Some people's might be really small, but just think that someone's that's really small probably have insanely dense, thick hair. But someone with finer hair they're not going to have they shouldn't have super tiny ones, because over time those are can get thin and they can snap off. And the idea is I'm trying to give you a style that has longevity in it, so I make sure to size mine according to the hair density. So So let's chat a little bit about rotations when interlocking. So with this client's hair, her hair is not super dense. It's like probably mid density. So in some areas I use the 3-point interlocking method, which is just like in from the side, in from the top, in from the other side, back through the top, back through the other side, which you'll see me doing a few. And then around her edges, I did a couple of 2-point rotations, especially where her hair was really, really short and where it was the most finest. And here and there, I did the 4-point rotation, depending on how dense the hair was in that section. The thing about our hair as natural girlies and as, just natural hair, textured hair, I should say, there's different textures everywhere in our heads. Our hair reacts different ways to certain things, especially if we're not necessarily training our hair. And when I say training our hair, like, doing your regular natural hair routine. And then of course, if you have like color in your hair, that changes the texture. So there's so many things that play into your different hair textures in the different parts of your head. So you just want to make sure that when you're going through, even though you want these microlocs to be uniform, you want them to also be individualized in the areas they need to be, to make sure you're giving your client or giving yourself a style that is going to have longevity. It's all about longevity. So let's talk about tools. So you see I'm using an interlocking tool. That's the usual one that a lot of people use. I use this one 90% of the time, but I also use my crochet hook here and there when I get into the areas where it's a lot shorter, or if I want to pull the lock through one more time in certain areas and I can't necessarily fit it in with the interlocking tool. It'd be too much of a tight squeeze, so I use the hook. So as you can see, I just use the hook where, in this case, where the hair is shorter, just to make grabbing the hair and pulling it through a lot easier. Another thing you want to remember is as you're going through the style and you're doing your different sections, the sections that are direct opposite of each other should have the same number of rows and the same number of locks in the rows that are in the same areas. So like this section on this side of the head, on the other side of the head in the same area should have the same amount of rows and the same amount of locks, unless your client has hair breakage on one side, because I have a couple that have like a little more breakage on one side than the other, a little more length, a little more dense. Once again, your hair is different all over, so you just do the best you can to make things match up. But as long as everything is uniform, you'll be good to go.
Drop a pin, girl, wanna know your location. What's your location? Had to pull a plug on your ex, now you coming my way, I can switch it up for you, girl, I'm no longer a player. See that pretty face on my screen, that'll make my day, I'm only looking for loyalty, all I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love they do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you.
So at the very end, I take all the little bantu knots out. I use a water that I made. It's a infused water that will be on sale sooner than later. I spray the hair down with that to get the natural curls going and to just relax what I just did, kind of just give the scalp a whole like breather. And then I go in with a foam. Now you can go in with your favorite foam, or mousse I should say, whichever you like the best, but I'll put a link to the one that I used. The one I used, I can't think of the name right now. I think it starts with an N and it's like blue, but it's really light. It literally disappears, but you can feel that it's softening the hair and conditioning it, and I like that. And that's really it. We ended up snipping some of her ends at the very bottom because she has, of course, because she has color in her hair. In her hair, some of her ends were a little less curled in the back than we wanted them to. So I went through and snipped them off at the end. But yeah, she left her hair. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated with her reties, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I answered a lot of your questions. If you have any more, please leave them below. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.